being afraid of only two things. We're afraid of loud noises and falling, the fear of falling. Every other fear we have is learned. And yet today, as grown-ups, we're afraid of so much. And chief amongst those is the fear of change. So show of hands, who here has ever been freaked out by a change that they've tried to go through? Thank you. I get it. I'm afraid. I'm afraid right now. I'm afraid to be on this stage. I'm afraid to tell you the story about myself that I'm about to. But I know that fear is learned, and if I choose to, I can unlearn it. So the story I'm going to tell you is about this little girl. That's me, age 5. I know that everybody is crazy for Wonder Woman, but I have to tell you, Wonder Woman for me is and always will be the 1970s television star Linda Carter. Thank you. I was Wonder Woman mad. I had the coloring book, I had the action figure, I had the Underoos. Any Americans in here remember Underoos? Oh yeah, that's right. Very, very cool. So I had the Underoos, I loved it all, and my amazing mother made this incredible costume for me, complete with the tinfoil cuffs and the cardboard crown and this incredible red, white, and blue satin cape. And I wore this cape everywhere. I wore it to school, I wore it to bed, and one Sunday, when I asked my mother if I could wear it to church, she gave me something of a sideways glance, but she relented. She was already letting me be my own woman at age 5. And as I walked in that church, I was so confident that I asked if I could carry the offering basket down to the altar. This is something I had been really terrified of in the past, but when I was walking down that aisle towards that altar, I wasn't just a little girl dressed as Wonder Woman. I was Wonder Woman. I was flying down that aisle until my Mary Jane loafer caught the edge of this beautiful cape, and I went flying. Flat on my face, nickels and quarters everywhere, dollar bills are fluttering down on top of me, and in that moment, I was transformed. I was no longer Wonder Woman. I was just a little girl with skinned knees and a bruised ego. And I might have been born with my fear of falling, but in that moment, I learned my fear of people seeing behind the cape, and I didn't like it. So fast forward 25 years, and I have perfected, at this point, my superhero routine. I mean, I've got a badass job as a homicide investigator. I have this perfect, hot, successful husband. I've got a perfect marriage. I've got a perfect home. My life is perfect. Did I mention it was perfect? You can see where this is going, I imagine. Then this happened. Some artists have what they call their blue period. I had my blue screen period. So the first time that my husband hit me, I was surprised. I'm sorry. I was surprised not that he hit me because I think he always had it in him, but I was surprised at what I did, which was nothing. I didn't like Sue pack my bags and leave. I didn't hire a high-powered divorce attorney. I didn't burn all his dress shirts. I did nothing. Well, actually, what I did was I begged for forgiveness. I turned myself inside out to try to be the person that I thought he wanted me to be. And I did terrible things to become the person that deserved what he was doing. And of course, that was all behind closed doors because when I left the house, I put that cape back on and I was perfect for everyone else, right? And then one day, this older woman who I didn't even really know that well, right? And but I'd been working with for quite a while. She came up to me and she said, "Monica, your affect is dead." And I'll never forget this. She said, "You think I can't see, but I see you, and you're broken inside." And it was about that time that I saw this quote for the first time. And it set me on a path that I've been on ever since. And I knew then that I couldn't hide the split lips and the broken heart anymore. I had to hatch or go bad. And poet Anaïs Nin says it in another way. She says that the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And so in that moment, I knew I had to take all this knowledge that I'd gathered about change, that I'd been sharing with other people, and I had to turn it in inside myself. And these are sort of the three ideas that carried me through that time, and I still carry with myself today. So there's a lot of talk these days about resiliency, and I think that's terrific. But one of the challenges is that when people think of resiliency, they tend to think about toughening up, right? They think they need to build a thicker skin. And so they pull that cape tighter or they polish their armor. But the challenge is that that cape, that armor, it can become a weight, a burden. It can suffocate you. We know from Brené Brown's incredible research and her TED Talk that the key to resiliency is vulnerability. But when I talk about getting naked, I'm not just talking about vulnerability. I'm talking about vulnerability as coupled with agency, a strong sense of psychological agency, that thing that allows us to take ownership over our own bodies and the choices that we make. So when I talk about getting naked, I mean being able to look at yourself and really see yourself and know that that deeply flawed, broken human being has inside them the building blocks to effect positive change. And in fact, only that deeply flawed, broken human being that you see has the building blocks to effect change for themselves. The next is unlearning, and this one might sound a little funny, but even Yoda said we must unlearn what we have learned, and who am I to argue with Yoda? He's got it going on. So what did he mean by that? He meant that sometimes these truths that we know with the capital T actually get in the way of us being able to see a new path. The grandfather of change management, Carl Lewin, said that every change process was thaw, reframe, refreeze. How can we thaw and reframe if we don't unlearn the things that got us there in the first place? But I know it's challenging. The thing is, we learn all of those truths right around the same time as we learn those fears, and I think they're almost part and parcel with each other. Things like the truth that failure is an ending, or that imperfections need to be hidden. I love the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi. The idea that imperfection should be honored. In fact, honored above all else is authenticity. And to me, there is no more beautiful manifestation of that than the art of kintsugi, which is this picture here. It's the idea that you don't just try to mend something, that you highlight the fissures with a precious metal. I mean, what an amazing metaphor, right? That you would highlight the fissures with a precious metal. To me, conferences like this are kintsugi for my soul, to be surrounded by so much precious metal. It just feels like it fills me up and makes me whole. And I guess the last is the idea of an aha moment, the great aha. What is aha to me? It's the perfect commingling of curiosity and awe. Did you know that curiosity actually changes the chemistry of your brain? Scientists from UC Davis found that if you showed somebody something they were curious about, it lit up their dopamine center. But then if you showed them the answer, it actually triggered the hippocampus, which meant that that information was being embedded in their long-term memory. So curiosity, in fact, helps us learn and adapt at a greater level. Einstein so revered curiosity, he called it holy curiosity. And if holy curiosity is sort of that itch that needs to be scratched, right, then I guess awe is that emotion that spans perfectly between fear and joy. I mean, the word awful and awesome both have the same root to them, don't they? Awe is described by scientists at UC Berkeley as the single most profoundly beneficial emotion that we can experience. They say people who regularly experience awe are happier, they're healthier, they're more generous, they're more innovative, they're more curious, they're more humble, and they're more likely to contribute to their community's success. But the thing about awe psychologically is it actually changes our perspective of time and allows us to release ourselves from certain elements of our negative ego. So the combination of curiosity and awe, it doesn't just make us able to adapt and learn more quickly, but it gives us hope. I want to end with something of a call to action. And so I'm going to give you a quote from Anna Quinlan that I really I think is appropriate. She said, "Set aside your traditional notions of woman as nurturer and man as leader, but also set aside our new traditional notions of woman as superhero and man as oppressor, and instead start from that most terrifying of places, a blank slate. And then Look out, and every day, with every decision you make, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And find this answer. For me. For me. Because it's who I am and who I intend to be. I would ask you today to give yourselves the gift of a blank slate, to take that cape off even if just for a couple of hours, and to allow yourself to hatch rather than go bad. Thank you.